You know, it really wasn't that long ago that wearing a piece of tech to bed meant you just forgot to take off your Casio watch. Like, it was a mistake.
Right, yeah. You'd wake up with a little imprint on your wrist.
Exactly. But today, you, our listener, have handed us this incredible stack of research on a wearable device that, well, it doesn't just know you're getting sick before you even sneeze. It's actually starting to tell us whether a marriage is thriving based entirely on how two heart rates sync up at, like, 2 in the morning.
It is a massive leap in how we quantify human life. I mean, we've moved from simple passive data logging,
Yeah.
just counting how many steps you took, to this era of deeply intimate, almost predictive relationship modeling.
So welcome to today's deep dive. We are sorting through all your sources, the marketing analyses, the user reviews, and some incredibly dense scientific papers.
Very dense.
Yeah, seriously dense. But we're unpacking a device called the OXYZEN AI Wellness Ring. And beyond just the hardware, we're diving into this wildly emerging scientific field known as biosynchronized couple wellness.
Or, if we use the clinical terms from your research papers, physiological sleep co-regulation.
Right.
Which is a dense term, I know.
Yeah.
But the implications for how we live and love are profound.
Yeah.
We are basically taking our most hidden personal biological data and analyzing how it actively shapes our shared lives with a partner.
Wow. Let's establish the baseline technology first, though, because I feel like we have to understand how this tech evolved before we can understand how it essentially acts as a third wheel in your relationship.
That's a good way to put it.
Looking at the market analysis you provided, the heavy hitters in the wearable space have historically had these very specific retrospective focuses, right?
Yeah, exactly. Take Aura, for example. Their whole ecosystem over the last few years has been built around this readiness score.
Which is a great metric.
It is. And to calculate it, their algorithms heavily weight your resting heart rate and your body temperature from the night before, to tell you how recovered you are today.
Right. And then you have Whoop, which the sources note prioritizes strain.
Yes, the strain metric.
So it focuses on how hard you pushed your cardiovascular system today, basically so you know how much you need to recover tomorrow.
And both of those models are highly effective. But notice how they are fundamentally reactive. Like, they look at what your body has already done. OXYZEN attempts to differentiate itself by acting as a proactive health coach.
Proactive, okay.
Right. Their physiological differentiator, the core metric they base their predictive AI on, is the continuous integration of blood oxygen data, or SpO₂.
So instead of treating blood oxygen as the secondary good-to-know metric, OXYZEN just builds the entire foundation on it.
Exactly.
But let's clarify the mechanism here, because I think a lot of people don't fully get it. What is it actually measuring when we talk about SpO₂?
Well, it's looking at the percentage of your red blood cells that are fully loaded with oxygen.
Right.
In a totally healthy state, that's usually like 95 to 100%.
Right.
The AI is specifically monitoring how efficiently your lungs are transferring oxygen into your bloodstream while you're at rest.
And why does a drop in that specific number, allow the AI to predict an illness before a person actually feels a cough or a fever coming on?
Because of the body's inflammatory response. So long before you feel a sore throat, your immune system recognizes an invading virus and triggers systemic inflammation to fight it off.
Okay, so the battle has already started.
Right. And that inflammation subtly impairs the microscopic air sacs in your lungs. They just can't transfer oxygen quite as efficiently.
Yeah.
So your SpO₂ might drop from, say, 99% to 96%.
Which you wouldn't even notice, right?
Not at all.
Yeah.
You wouldn't feel a 3% drop subjectively. You aren't gasping for air. But the AI sees that fractional drop combined with your heart having to pump just a little bit faster to compensate. And it flags that an immune response has already begun.
Oh, wow. The best way to visualize this shift is thinking about older generations of fitness trackers, like looking in the rearview mirror of your car.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Right. You look down and see, I took 10,000 steps yesterday. Or, I slept poorly last night. It's helpful context, but the event is already behind you. You can't change it.
You're just observing the past.
Exactly. What OXYZEN is attempting with this predictive AI feels much more like driving with a GPS navigation system. It's looking at the subtle conditions of the road, your SpO₂, your heart rate, and warning you, hey, there is a massive traffic jam of systemic stress 3 miles ahead of you.
Yes, so you need to pull over and rest right now.
Right, even if the road looks clear at this exact second.
And the engine powering that GPS warning system is a highly sophisticated sleep AI. The research outlines 4 main AI functions that translate those raw bodily metrics into actionable insights.
Let's break those down. First one is chronotype analysis, right?
Yeah, the AI analyzes your long-term sleep patterns to identify your internal biological clock. Are you a morning lark, naturally rising with the sun, or are you a night owl?
Okay, so it learns your natural rhythm.
Exactly. And once it establishes that baseline, it offers personalized bedtime windows rather than enforcing like a generic 10 p.m. sleep goal for everyone.
Which relies entirely on the second function, which is sleep stage classification.
Right, because the ring isn't just detecting if you're lying still.
Right. The machine learning algorithms are translating your micro movements and your heart rate variability into distinct sleep cycles. You know, light sleep, deep restorative sleep, and REM sleep.
We should really pause on heart rate variability, or HRV, because
Yeah.
it is the absolute linchpin of that classification.
Yeah, let's get into that because most people hear heart rate and think of a steady rhythmic drum beat, like a metronome.
Right, they think, oh, my heart rate is 60 beats per minute, so it's beating exactly once every single second.
Right, precisely 1 second apart.
But that is a huge misconception. In reality, there are microscopic variations in the milliseconds between those beats. Sometimes it's 0.9 seconds, sometimes it's 1.1 seconds.
Oh, wow.
And that variability is actually an indicator of health. It means your autonomic nervous system is adaptable, like it's constantly adjusting to minor stimuli like your breathing or slight temperature changes.
So more variation is good.
Yes. When your body's under heavy physical strain or fighting off a bug, your nervous system gets locked into a rigid stress state. Those micro variations vanish.
The heartbeat becomes uniform.
Exactly, like a metronome. And by tracking that rigidity during sleep, the algorithms determine when you transition from light sleep into deep, restorative physical recovery.
That is fascinating. And it takes all that architectural sleep data and feeds it into the third pillar, which is predictive readiness.
Right. It calculates how your specific recovery from the night before compares to your physical strain from the previous day.
Which then dictates the advice the AI gives you in the morning, like about how hard you can safely push your body that day.
And finally, we have trend detection. By establishing a very firm baseline of what normal looks like for your highly specific nervous system, the AI detects incredibly subtle deviations.
Like the SpO₂ drop we talked about.
Exactly. To the trend detection algorithm, a slight deviation from your historical baseline is a glaring red flag.
I mean, the software is undeniably ambitious. But looking through the user reviews you sent over, we really have to weigh that software ambition against the physical realities of the hardware.
Yeah, there's definitely a balancing act of pros and cons here.
Right, like on the pro side, the design is super discreet. For 247 wear, especially in bed, a ring is vastly superior to wearing a bulky smartwatch. I mean, nobody wants a glowing screen on their wrist while they're trying to sleep.
Very true. But the reviews highlight significant drawbacks, too. There are mandatory subscription fees to access those deep predictive insights, which is, a common friction point in the AI wearable market right now.
Oh, totally. People hate subscriptions.
And there's also the reality of a limited display. The Ring has no screen at all, rendering the user entirely reliant on opening a smartphone app.
And here is where I really have to push back on the viability of this entire ecosystem, because the sources emphasize a major con called fit sensitivity.
Ah, yes, the fit.
Right. The ring has to fit perfectly for the optical sensors to get accurate readings on your finger. But, I mean, fingers swell when we eat salty food. They shrink when we get cold. We toss and turn in our sleep.
Human bodies are messy.
Exactly. If this highly proactive health coach requires absolute perfect sensor contact, it feels like the whole system is incredibly fragile. I mean, if the ring rotates slightly off its ideal axis during the night, couldn't this AI suddenly wake up and give you terrible, completely inaccurate advice based on noisy data?
Well, the engineers behind OXYZEN did anticipate that physical vulnerability. The hardware is indeed limited by the reality of human fingers, but the software is designed to filter out that noise.
How so?
The trend detection algorithm is constantly looking for the signature of a bad read, like a sudden, physically impossible plunge in heart rate, and it isolates and discards that corrupted data.
It still feels like a blind spot to me, though. Like, if the fit is consistently poor because someone ordered the wrong size or their hands naturally swell significantly at night, the software is essentially guessing in the dark to fill in those gaps.
You're not wrong. If the sensors can't see the capillaries, the predictive model falls apart. That is the fundamental trade-off the user accepts for not wearing a cumbersome medical strap across their chest.
Fair point.
The AI is only as smart as the raw data it can clearly ingest.
Okay, So if the ring is this finicky when it's just trying to read my finger and filter out my own tossing and turning, I have to imagine tossing a second human into the bed, wearing their own hypersensitive ring, turns this entire data stream into absolute chaos.
And now we are looking at the core of the biosynchronized couple wellness research in your stack. This is the big pivot.
Yeah.
We are crossing the frontier from individual biology to relationship dynamics, specifically analyzing a metric called sleep co-regulation.
I have to admit, I read this part of the study 3 times because it almost sounds like pseudoscience at first glance. Sleep co-regulation is measuring how well a couple's physiological signals align during the night.
Right. We are talking about heart rates, breathing patterns, and the progression through those sleep stages we just defined.
It is tracking whether your bodies are doing the same things at the same times while you are literally unconscious.
Exactly. And a high co-regulation score indicates two main things. First, synchrony. This means you and your partner are entering deep sleep or REM sleep at similar times.
Okay.
And second, rest quality, meaning both of your bodies are responding to the shared sleeping environment in a restful, similar way.
And the research suggests there is a massive bonding element to this, right? Like the scientific studies show that this physical, unconscious synchrony heavily correlates with relationship satisfaction and emotional closeness during our waking hours.
It does.
But how does breathing at the same time as someone else actually translate to feeling emotionally closer to them the next day? I mean, I'm asleep.
It actually makes complete evolutionary sense when we look at mammalian biology. Mammals that sleep together co-regulate their nervous systems to feel safe.
Oh, interesting.
When your breathing and heart rates align with your partner's, your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode, as opposed to the fight or flight mode, is deeply engaged.
So your body knows it's not under threat.
Precisely. Your brain registers that you are guarded, safe, and biologically at peace with the person next to you. You wake up with a nervous system that feels secure.
Wow. While I was reading this, I kept thinking of a physics experiment involving pendulums.
Oh, the synchronization one.
Yeah.
Ah.
If you hang 2 separate pendulums on the same wall and start them swinging at completely different times and rhythms, the tiny invisible vibrations traveling through the wall itself will eventually cause those pendulums to slowly sync up until they swing in perfect unison.
It's mesmerizing to watch.
It really is. And it sounds like we are basically observing a biological Wi-Fi connection between partners. We share a mattress, we share the air, and our nervous systems are like those pendulums, slowly finding the exact same rhythm.
Spontaneous synchronization is the mechanical equivalent of what the research is observing here. Your bodies are constantly exchanging microsignals throughout the night.
Like what?
Body heat, subtle movements, pheromones, the auditory rhythm of your partner's breathing. The wearable is simply the first mainstream tool capable of objectively measuring that biological Wi-Fi.
That's wild.
However, the sources highlight a really fascinating tension in the research between objective data and subjective feeling.
You mean the gap between what the wearable strictly measures and how the couple actually feels about their bond the next morning?
Yes, there are anomalies in the data. Sometimes a couple might have terrible physiological synchrony because one partner is fighting off a cold and their heart rate is elevated.
Right.
But they wake up feeling incredibly emotionally close and supportive.
Because they cared for each other.
Oh, I see. On the flip side, the rings might indicate they shared 90 minutes of perfectly synchronized REM sleep. But they wake up, get out of bed, and immediately get into a massive argument over making the coffee.
So the data isn't destiny. It is just one layer of the relational environment.
Exactly.
But that points us toward the actual architecture of shared wellness. Moving from the abstract science of parasympathetic nervous systems to day-to-day life, like how do couples actually use this physiological synchrony data without driving each other crazy?
Well, the sources detail specific ways couples use the data to optimize their shared sleep cycles. The first step is often identifying biological mismatches.
Like the chronotypes we talked about.
Right. Let's say the AI proves objectively that partner A is a severe night owl and partner B is an extreme morning lark.
I feel like that takes the blame out of the equation. It is no longer this localized argument of, you are keeping me up with your reading. It becomes an objective observation of our biological chronotypes are clashing.
It's neutral ground. Once they have that objective data, they can negotiate a middle ground or agree to separate sleep routines that respect those biological realities.
Makes sense.
And the technology actively helps navigate that clash. The smart alarms mentioned in the reviews are a prime example. If the morning lark needs to wake up at 5 a.m., they don't use a blaring audio alarm that shocks the night owl out of deep sleep.
Right, because nobody wants that.
The ring utilizes sleep stage classification to find a moment of light sleep near 5 a.m. and gently vibrates solely on the lark's finger.
That is brilliant. The sources also note couples using the devices to track co-sleeping impact. Like if partner A has a lot of physical strain and tosses and turns, partner B's ring might objectively show that their deep sleep is being constantly interrupted by the movement.
Yes, the movement transfer.
And that hard data is what finally prompts the couple to buy a larger bed, or switch to a mattress that isolates motion, or even try the Scandinavian sleep method with separate blankets. They are using data to engineer a better physical environment.
And this shared architecture extends into the daytime dynamics too. Through concepts the reviews call mutual support and healthy competition.
Oh, yeah. Explain the mutual support part.
The data actively fosters a new kind of empathy. If you can clearly see that your partner's predictive readiness score is completely tanked, maybe their HRV was rigid all night and they only got a 30% recovery score, you instantly understand why they might be irritable over breakfast.
Right. It gives context.
But you pivot. Instead of suggesting a highly social, exhausting night out, you suggest a quiet evening in. It builds a bridge of understanding. And on the other side of the spectrum, the healthy competition aspect gamifies their wellness, using shared activity goals to keep each other motivated.
Okay, I understand the mutual support concept in theory, but I have a major question about the psychological burden here.
Let's hear it.
Because if I open my app on a Tuesday morning and I see that my partner had a terrible night of sleep, like their SpO₂ dropped, their nervous system is locked in a stress state, does that just create secondary anxiety for me?
It's a very real concern.
Right. If I know their exact biological stress load, am I now carrying the weight of it? There has to be a risk of too much information here where the data starts causing the very friction it's supposed to prevent.
The psychological burden of constant biometric surveillance within a relationship is significant. If you see your partner's stress levels spiking, the instinct might be to interrogate them about it.
Like, why is your heart rate so high? What are you stressed about?
Exactly, which inevitably creates more stress and defensiveness. Information can easily become a source of deep anxiety if it isn't managed correctly.
Which is why the privacy protocols outlined in the OXYZEN materials are arguably the most critical feature for making this concept of shared wellness actually survivable.
The developers clearly anticipated that psychological friction. The platform does not default to an open book of raw data. They use a system of granular sharing to act as a psychological buffer.
Meaning you don't have to share the raw, messy reality of your nervous system.
Right. You choose what layer of reality to share. A user can choose to share a simple, color-coded sleep score or a general readiness score with their partner while keeping their raw heart rate or precise minute-by-minute sleep stages completely private.
So it's just the headline, not the full article.
Exactly. It provides enough context for empathy without overwhelming the partner with medical-grade data anxiety.
And it operates entirely on consent-based access, too. You have to send a mutual invite to share data, and the system features revocable permissions. You can turn the sharing off at any time, no questions asked.
It respects the boundary between the individual and the couple.
You remain an autonomous biological entity, but you choose to share the high-level summary to intentionally foster connection.
Perfectly said.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, who brought us this deep dive? I mean, as we look across the market analyses, the science, and the user experiences, the clearest takeaway is that a fundamental shift has occurred.
A huge shift.
Wearables are no longer just solitary fitness logs tracking how far we ran. They were actively evolving into tools for relational empathy.
They are holding up a mirror, not just to our individual bodies, but to the invisible space between us and our partners. We are uncovering the fact that our biology is deeply social and that shared wellness is a measurable phenomenon.
Which brings me to a final thought I want to leave you with, building on the mechanics we've unpacked today. We established earlier that this AI uses subtle trend detection to predict physical illness well before you feel the symptoms, right?
Right.
And we established that physical sleep synchrony heavily correlates with emotional closeness and relationship satisfaction. So consider this. Could these AI algorithms eventually detect a subtle drift in your biometric synchrony and predict a relationship rough patch before either of you even realize you're emotionally disconnecting?
Wow.
If the predictive GPS can warn you about physical traffic miles ahead, could it one day act as an early warning system for a breakup? Something to think about the next time you check your readiness score.